Hey, I should do, because I've been reading for the last good while in the month of March, Trnt LeBlanc. Oh, sure does. Oh, Theo, I will put that in the thing. Yeah, I've been reading Trnt LeBlanc by Jeanette Morel, which has been really, really interesting. Okay, I gotta figured I should check in and just sort of talk about how it's been going. Um, you know, aside from the pretty horrific violence towards their enemies, you know, it's one of these things that seems to be just taken its course that we're gonna kind of butcher all these people, all these Muslims, without mercy. Um, but there's also a love story in here, which in some ways increases the kind of the horror of kind of the battle, the war part of it. It was interesting that I've been kind of looking up on the history, and there's all this stuff about how the Genoese, who are fellow Europeans, seem to be on the side of the Ottomans, and the reason for that is that they are they are the great trading partners. The Venetians, probably the Genoese, are the great trading partners of the Ottomans, and indeed that's kind of the source of a lot of their wealth. And indeed, that wealth is kind of the is the reason why Europe, those parts of Europe, Italy, became so rich and were able to fund what is now known as the Renaissance, the Great Explosion of Learning, and that indeed the other thing that was gotten from the Ottomans and the Arabic countries was the great kind of storehouse of knowledge that the that they had amassed, a lot of times saving Greek, a lot of the Greek and Roman works, having translated them into Arabic, and that's how we get it today. And indeed, that and the money seeded the great flourishing of Europe as a thing. Um, it's also interesting in the chapter that I'm reading at the moment, which is this battle between Trnt LeBlanc and the Ottomans. That it's kind of intercutting back and forth at the moment. We're doing kind of that thing where it's like, oh, there's the stuff that's happening in the Emperor's palace, of kind of this romance thing, and then we flash back to Trnt's men who are bitterly wishing for his help as they fight against the Turks, and you know, and that. So it's kind of an interesting, like, just cutting back and forth, which is a really effective technique and sort of semi-modern, kind of action adventure kind of thing that you would see. Um, there's a certain kind of stately kind of measuredness, I guess, to the prose of like, and he was very pleased, and the emperor was pleased, or the emperor was Toronto was content with certain actions, like of his servant that he raised to being a knight, Hippolytus, who had captured a great ship and all the riches on it, and he was very pleased with that. Yeah. So I'm enjoying reading it. It's good to read it out loud. Some parts of it, maybe because of the repetitions, are a little bit on the kind of like, this is hard to read. I don't know if that's probably more of a function of the translation, or just of how the work, just of how the work is. So that there might be that. But yeah, I'm up to like chapter 5, 46% of the way through, which is better than my Don Quixote reading at the moment, which I think I'm still only like 37%. I would dearly love to be more in the 50s or 60s right now, but you know, I'll just do what I do and continue reading along. I won't get into Don Quixote at the moment. I'll leave that for a different video. All right, I will leave it there. So yeah, about chapter 5 of Trnt LeBlanc. I think I just started chapter 6, and am continuing on. continuing on with his illicit love affair with the emperor's daughter, which he, they conceal from the emperor, who seems like a bit of a dolt. Some daughter feigns illness, and he's like, the emperor is swooning. He's like, oh my god, she's dying, and almost dies himself from grief, even though she's just sort of, well, she's also kind of swooning out of love. There's a lot of love swooning in this book, or the piteous kind of mournful suffering of Trnt LeBlanc because of love. It's very much that chivalric kind of idea, which, it's funnily enough, like within the work itself, you kind of buy into, even though there's a part of me outside that's like outside looking in at it, who's going like, oh God, it is of its genre, but you kind of have to accept the genre as you're going through it, as well as the fearful kind of, basically it's basically agreed that you can tell from these books that it's basically agreed that these are subhumans, that we don't have to particularly worry about them unless they are Christian, which is just that brutal thing. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.